the days before the iron snake slithered across the land, and before the shimmering glass of the great water spirits reflected the faces of strangers, the Luo people lived in harmony with the rhythm of the Nile. The river was the source of life, flowing with stories as old as time itself. Its waters carried the whispers of ancestors, guiding the people through the cycles of birth, life and death. In the village of Nyakach, nestled by the shores of Lake Victoria, the air was thick with the scent of fish and freshly tilled soil. The Luo were proud fishermen and farmers, their nets pulling in the bounty of the lake, and their hoes turning the fertile earth into sustenance. They honored the spirits of the land, the lake, and the sky, offering sacrifices to Nyasai, the great creator who watched over them. One day, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the waters, a group of young boys playing by the lake noticed something unusual. On the far side of the lake, where the land met the sky, a strange object appeared, cutting through the water with a speed and purpose they had never seen before. It was a canoe, but unlike any they had ever known. It was much larger and moved without paddles, slicing through the water as if propelled by some invisible force. The boys ran to the village, their voices high with excitement and fear. Come and see. The spirits of the lake have sent us a sign, they cried. The elders wise in the ways of the world gathered at the shores, their faces etched with concern. Among them was Jaduong Ogola, a revered elder known for his deep connection to the spirits. As the strange canoe drew closer, the villagers gasped in awe and terror. Standing on the deck were men unlike any they had ever seen. Their skin was pale, almost like the underbelly of a fish, and they wore clothes that shimmered in the sunlight, made of a material that looked like the woven dreams of the spiders in the forest. The stranger spoke in a tongue that was foreign and hushed the ears of the Luo. Jaduong Ogola stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. He had heard tales from traveling traders of men with pale skin who came from the east, beyond the mountains and the great seas. These were the Mzungu, the white men, who brought with them both gifts and curses. The leader of the strangers, a tall man with eyes the color of the sky, stepped forward and bowed. He introduced himself in a halting, broken version of the local dialect, his words heavy with the accent of a distant land. He was John, an explorer sent by his king to find new lands and people. The villagers were wary but curious. They had never seen such men before, and though their presence was unsettling, the Luo were a people of hospitality. They invited the strangers to the village, offering them food and shelter. The night was filled with stories as the Luo shared their legends, and the strangers spoke of their own lands far across the seas. But as the days passed, the elders grew uneasy. The strangers asked many questions about the land, the lake, and the people. They took measurements and drew maps, their eyes gleaming with the anger that the Luo did not understand. Jaduong Ogola knew that this visit was not a simple one. It was a precursor to something much larger, something that will change their way of life forever. In the quiet moments of the night, he prayed to Nyasai for guidance. The spirits whispered warnings of the future, of chains and guns, of land taken and freedom lost. The arrival of these strangers marked the beginning of a new era, one that will challenge the very essence of the Luo way of life. As dawn broke on the fourth day, the strangers prepared to leave, promising to return with more gifts and knowledge. They sailed away, their strange vessel cutting through the calm waters of the lake, leaving the villagers to ponder the events of the past few days. Jaduong Ogola watched them go, his heart heavy with the weight of what was to come. He knew that the world was changing, that the arrival of the Mzungu was just the beginning. The Luo would have to adapt, to find new ways to survive in this new world that was slowly unfolding before them. The sun set over the lake, painting the sky in hues of red and gold. The village returned to its routines, but a sense of unease lingered in the air. The spirits of the land, the lake, and the sky were restless, their whispers growing louder with each passing day. And so, the story of the day the strangers arrived was passed down through the generations, a tale of caution and wisdom, reminding the Luo people of the delicate balance between the known and the unknown, and the need to remain vigilant in the face of change. The moon had long risen when the villagers of Nyakach finally returned to their homes. The air was thick with questions and a deep-seated unease. For even though the strangers had been welcomed with hospitality, their departure left behind more than just footprints on the shores. For weeks after the strangers had sailed away, life in the village seemed to resume its usual rhythm. The fishermen cast their nets into the lake at dawn, the women tended to their crops and prepared meals, and the children continued to play along the shores. Yet, beneath the surface of this normalcy, the villagers felt a subtle shift, like the ground beneath their feet was no longer as solid as it once was. Jaduong Ogola, who had spent many nights in prayer and reflection, knew that the spirits were restless. He could feel it in the wind that whispered through the reeds by the lake, in the way the birds flew in erratic patterns, and in the dreams that haunted his sleep. The spirits warned him of coming storms, of a time when the land itself will groan under the weight of the changes that the strangers would bring. One evening, as the sky darkened with the approach of a storm, a group of young warriors from a neighboring village arrived in Nyakach. They were led by Ochieng, a tall, imposing man known for his strength and bravery. He had come to speak with Jaduong Ogola, seeking his wisdom. The strangers you spoke of, Jaduong, have been seen near our lands as well, Ochieng began, his voice low but filled with urgency. They speak of peace and trade, yet they take measurements of the land and mark it on their strange maps. They offer gifts, but I fear their true intentions are hidden behind their pale faces. Jaduong Ogola nodded, his expression grave. The spirits have spoken to me of these men, Ochieng. They come with promises of wealth and knowledge, but they bring with them a darkness that will change our world. We must be vigilant, and we must prepare for the times ahead. The elders of Nyakach and the warriors of the neighboring villages gathered under the cover of night to discuss what was to be done. They spoke of the tales told by the travelers, of the iron machines that the strangers wielded and the strange beliefs they carried. Some argued that the best course of action was to resist the strangers, to drive them from the land before they could spread their influence. Others feared that such actions would bring wrath upon their people. As the debate raged on, Jaduong Ogola remained silent, listening to the voices around him and to the whispers of the spirits. Finally, he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of his years and the wisdom of the ancestors. We must remember who we are, he began, his eyes sweeping over the gathered men. The Luo have always been a people of strength and resilience, We have faced many challenges and we have always overcome them by standing together, guided by the spirits of our ancestors. These strangers may come with their iron and their maps, but they cannot take from us what is in our hearts. The pride of our people, the love for our land, and the wisdom of our traditions. The men nodded in agreement, their resolve hardening. They knew that they were standing on the precipice of a new era, one that will bring challenges they had never faced before. But they also knew that as long as they stood together, they could protect their way of life. In the days that followed, the villagers of Nyakach and their neighbors began to prepare. They trained their warriors, fortified their homes, and offered sacrifices to the spirits for protection. Jedung Ogola continued to pray, seeking guidance and strength, knowing that the coming days will test them all. Then, one morning, as the sun was rising over the lake, the strange canoe returned. This time, it was not alone. A fleet of similar vessels followed, their decks crowded with more pale-skinned men and strange objects that gleamed in the sunlight. The villagers gathered at the shore, their hearts pounding with fear and anticipation. Jedung Ogola stood at the forefront, his staff firmly in hand, his eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. He knew that this was the moment the spirits had warned him of, the moment when their world will change forever. As the canoes docked, the leader of the strangers, John, stepped forward once again, his face smiling but his eyes cold. He spoke in the halting dialect he had used before, but this time there was no mistaking the authority in his tone. "We have come in peace," John announced, his voice echoing over the water. "But we bring with us a new way of life, one that will bring prosperity and progress to your people. We ask that you accept our presence here, for we come on behalf of our King, who has claimed these lands in the name of our great empire." The villagers stood in stunned silence, the words hanging heavy in the air. Claimed? How could these men claim land that had belonged to the Luo for generations? Land that was blessed by the spirits and nourished by the waters of the Nile. Jedung Ogola stepped forward, his voice strong and unwavering. "This land belongs to the Luo, as it has since the beginning of time. We honor our ancestors and the spirits of this land, and we will not give it up so easily." John's smile faltered for a moment, but he quickly recovered. "We do not seek conflict," he replied, "but understand that our King's will is law. We offer you the chance to join us, to learn from us, and to prosper together. But if you resist, know that we are prepared to defend our claim." The tension in the air was palpable. The villagers could feel the weight of the moment, the eyes of the ancestors upon them. Jedung Ogola knew that they were at a crossroads, that the choices made in the coming days will shape the future of their people. But as he looked into the faces of his people, he saw their determination, their pride, and their resolve. The Luo had always been a people of strength, and they will face this new challenge as they had faced all others. Together, guided by the wisdom of the ancestors and the spirits of the land. The storm that Jedung Ogola had feared was upon them, but he knew that as long as they stood united, they could weather it. The battle for their land and their way of life was just beginning, but the Luo will not give up without a fight. And so, the story of the day the strangers arrived continued, passed down through the generations as a tale of resilience, courage, and the unbreakable bond between a people and their land.